Hi, my name is Heidi Terlinden, and today I'd like to talk a little bit about the apparent myth of learning styles. I recently read some information by Gardner, as well as some other authors, about this myth of learning styles. The idea of learning styles has been really popular for the last couple of years, and you may know the name Howard Gardner because of his theory of multiple intelligences. How he explains in his article, though, is that multiple intelligences is not the same as having different and specified learning styles. Now, if you aren't familiar with the multiple intelligences theory, I recommend that you do take a look. It's very interesting and it seems to make sense. It's the idea that each of us has a number of relatively independent mental faculties, which can be called or termed multiple intelligences. The basic idea is simple in itself. A belief in a single intelligence assumes that we have one central, all-purpose computer, and it determines how well we perform in every sector of life. But in contrast, a belief in multiple intelligences assumes that we have a number of relatively autonomous computers, one that computes linguistic information, another spatial information, and another musical information, and another information about other people, and so on. And Howard Gardner says that he estimates that human beings have about 7 to 10 distinct intelligences. I think that we can all see this in our own lives. I, for one, have not very good spatial awareness, and that spatial intelligence, not so good at sports, but I am pretty good at math and puzzles and piecing together bits of information. A learning style is kind of similar in the sense that it's the idea that all children, and in fact all of us, have distinctive minds and personalities. This idea of learning styles really makes sense because it's the idea of finding out about your different learners and finding out ways that might be appropriate in teaching them, and to find a way to nurture what they value and ways that are effective in teaching. But the two problems that Gardner states is that the notion of learning styles is itself not coherent. He says the definition of the criteria for the style is not provided. And so how do we recognize or assess the style? And is the style for one subject, like math, or is it for all subjects, math, reading, science, and everything? The second problem that he sees in talking about learning styles is that when researchers try to identify and teach consistently to the learning styles, there's no better outcome in teaching specifically than there is in the one-size-fits-all approach. The end product seems to be the same, even though they taught specifically for a specific learning style. So those are some of the things that Gardner said. And now to discuss another TEDx video lecture by Talisha Marshik from the UW-La Crosse. She claims that the belief in learning styles is not just wrong, but it could even be dangerous. Now I think we can all agree in the same conclusion that Ms. Marshik had, that we have learning or teaching preferences. However, her statement is that your preferences don't actually enhance your learning. So most of what we learn in the classroom is stored in terms of meaning and is not tied to one sense or sensory mode. So you may have a better visual or auditory memory compared to others. Also, most of what you learn in the classroom is conceptual. So in order to actually maintain the information for a longer amount of time, you have to organize it in a way that is meaningful. The reason why some of us may have that uncomfortable feeling right now, being told that learning styles aren't actually a thing, is because that we all actually believe it to be true, and we want it to be true. It makes sense. And this is called, according to Ms. Marshik, confirmation bias. We all know this because we, as humans, don't like to be wrong. And what she said in her TEDx talk really makes sense, and I think we all know is true. We don't like to be wrong, and so what we do is we find information that confirms what we believe to be true. You can see this all over in politics and in a lot of different debates. You choose which article you want to read and believe. And really it's the same thing for this idea of learning styles. If you really love this idea of learning styles, you're going to look at information and studies and things that will seem to point that learning styles are the way to go and that teachers should teach to specific learning styles. But what she's saying is, sometimes you have to ignore some of that information, or you have to just take a step back. It's even unintentional and subconscious that we tend to remember things that we want to be true, and we forget those things that we don't want to be true. So this is what makes theory and putting theory into practice very difficult. A great quote by Benedict Carey in his book, How We Learn, says, "I've begun to incorporate learning science into a broad-based theory about how I think about life. It goes like this. Just as modern assumptions about good study habits are misleading, so too are our assumptions about bad habits." So in conclusion, yes, individualize your teaching as much as possible for your students, helping them learn and in a way that's enjoyable. And pluralize your teaching in different ways, through works of art, diagrams, role play, reading, through stories, everything. However, drop the term styles. In a sense, it's a problem with terminology. Let's not waste our time and resources trying to promote learning styles, but we should never give up on our efforts to promote learning.